Thank you for tuning in to the Katy Sissine Show on this beautiful Thursday morning. I'm your host, Katy Sissine, and we're addressing the indoctrination of the nation. Now, we started the week out Monday and Tuesday with discussing Trump and having some guest speakers on discussing his inauguration, how they felt about the inauguration and the protests, and the ensuing Women's March at the Capitol. That was not so productive, in my opinion. It just pointed out more disparity that's, unnecessary in America right now. We don't need to be reminded of our differences. What we need to be reminded of right now, as Donald Trump says, is our unity and that we are one nation. And even if you don't support Trump, remember he supports you as an American citizen. He's got your back. So keep that in mind. Now we went from discussing the inauguration of Trump to Obama's high approval rating when he left office, and how it was very strange that he had such a high approval rating because, he really didn't accomplish much. The Affordable Health Care Act ended up being expensive to more people than it was affordable, significantly more. And he also said that, he was going to help out drug offenders and lessen the convictions for drug offenses, but he failed to do so. There happened to be a paradigm shift in drug offenses. In 2007, we reached a peak of incarcerations and crime rates. And when Obama took office in 2009, the rates of crime and incarceration started going down. But this was not because of Obama, of course. It was associated with Obama, and Obama got credited for lowering crime rates and incarcerations. But as factual evidence proves and statistics proves, this was not thanks to Obama. This was just a coincidence. So then we got into the legalization, or we should just say the discussion of medicinal marijuana and how it's legalized in states but not in the feds, and how Obama has cracked down and how he had raided 270 dispensaries in his first term alone and spent $100 million more on medicinal marijuana crackdowns than did George W. Bush, who preceded him. Now, if this is a guy that wants to, lessen the consequences for drug offenders and who believes that drug offenders should, be treated differently than other offenders, especially for the use of medicinal marijuana that is state legal, then he obviously didn't fulfill his promises because he cracked down more than the president who preceded him. So anyway, let's look over some federal and state statistics that are proof that the federal offense drug rate of incarceration, that the federal offense of drug rates is too high. We've got a nice chart here showing that for us. So as you can see, the state rate of drug offenses is at 15%, while the federal rate is at 50%. Now that's 35% of an increase on the federal level. And this is because of medicinal marijuana. Now those same people in the state that are not punished by the state for legally operating their dispensaries or whatever they use in the business of marijuana are held accountable by the feds. This must be due to marijuana and other big traffics that are caught by the feds just because of the mass of the drugs and going in and out of the borders, and that the feds control the borders and such. So because of the feds getting people at the borders, and in addition to marijuana being a federal issue more so than a state issue, this is a problem that needs to be dealt with, and it's either we allow it federally in states that allow it, or we make states condemn it entirely along with the feds. But this federal to state, disagreement, it's not going to work. It's not going to cut it. It's not long term, and it's very unfair to those who are making a life out of this, whose state tells them to do it to boost their state's economy and to boost their community. And we could take that photo away. So it's very unfair to these people who do this legally within their state. And sometimes it's the only way they can make a living in their state. It becomes such an integrated part of the state economy that you get involved with maybe without even thinking about it. And then out of nowhere, the feds come and they raid you and they take you for everything you've worked for. It's just simply not fair. I'm not condoning any kind of illicit drug here. I'm simply saying that it's not fair to American citizens that something that's illegal in their state they can be held accountable for by their federal government. It's an inconsistency that needs to be addressed. So anyway, according to the statistics, the state movement of legalization should be validated by the federal government, like I said, or it should be condemned by both the federal and the state level in order to keep innocent people out of prison. The U.S. must address the enormous prison sector and living conditions of the imprisoned as well. We have to take into consideration that when we imprison people, we associate them with other criminals and we possibly make them into criminals. So these people that go into federal prison for medicinal marijuana or things that were legal in their state, and they get raided by the feds, and all of a sudden they're criminals, they get grouped in with murderers and thieves and whatnot. And essentially, we could be contributing to the breeding and perpetuating the cycle of incarcerations by actually breeding more criminals, by associating people doing, moderately legal activity, state legal activity, with people who just outright disregard federal and state law. So it needs to be addressed. And let's also go over the fact that most of Obama's pardons and commutations were mainly for drug-related crimes. And so he obviously didn't really look out for drug offenders as he said he would. Maybe Obama should have abandoned Obamacare. He should have focused on leaving a legacy on improving the prison sector, considering that the majority of commutations and pardons by Obama were for drug offenders. Why hasn't the rate of imprisoned drug offenders drastically declined then? If he's so much so on the side of these drug offenders and wants to help them, but yet he only commuted and pardoned hundreds out of hundreds of thousands, then he's not doing anything. All he's doing is trying to improve his reputation. Silly. He's a trickster. He's a trickster. I mean, that's a sly move, to be accredited for pardoning and commuting more drug offenses than any other president, but yet not changing the rate of people who are in prison for drug offenses at all. The rate didn't change at all, but he made himself look better, I believe, by commuting or commutating, whatever, giving commutations and pardons than any other president ever for drug offenders. Wow. So why in the world would Obama focus his efforts on socializing our healthcare system? A wasted energy in this country that is begging to be repealed and is in the works of that right now as we speak at the White House. Obama could have focused his efforts instead on granting the people of the United States more freedom, not less. No, he does not have my approval as president. I did not contribute to his approval rating, but he does deserve a trophy for participation. Because now we're supposed to give those to everyone. And so he gets a trophy for participation as 44th president of the United States, but he does not get my approval. No wonder his approval rating was so high. He pardoned and commuted so many citizens for drug-related crimes that his administration cracked down on. It's total hypocrisy. Wow. According to the sentencingproject.org, the United States is the world's leader in incarceration, with 2.2 million people currently in the nation's prisons and jails, a 500% increase over the last 40 years, which is why Obama made it a point to address this issue, but he failed to do so. He did not change the rates whatsoever. He simply made himself look better with commutations and pardons that really didn't do much except for the lucky individuals that got chosen to be pardoned. The exponential increase of incarceration, of course, followed shortly after Nixon declared the war on drugs in 1971. And of course, I'd already done this research prior to to getting to the whole medicinal marijuana thing and the incongruencies on the state and the federal level. So I knew that I was going to reference back to this. And that's what, caused the exponential increase of incarceration, and it peaked right before Obama's presidency in 2007, before he took oath in 2009. And Obama was lucky that the peak had already passed by the time he got into office. He was simply lucky. Do not be fooled. Obama did not lower the rates of crime and incarcerations. If you've missed any portions of the show and you're tuning in recently, in case you're wondering, he did not do that. He simply got lucky. Let's reflect on Nixon declaring the war on drugs. Shortly thereafter, Reagan was in office, and he and Nancy especially, promoted the Just Say No slogan that is well remembered today, as was her special project as First Lady. That was her special project as First Lady. And this set the stage for the zero tolerance policies implemented in the mid to late 80s. That helped the exponential growth of incarcerations to continue. Former Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates, who believed the casual drug users should be taken out and shot, and I assume he would include medicinal marijuana users in this as well, he co-founded the DARE drug education program, which was quickly adopted nationwide despite the lack of evidence of its effectiveness. So we started to get all this propaganda in the media against drugs. There were even movies that came out that made people think that, smoking marijuana actually, could kill you instantaneously, and all kinds of crazy, exaggerated scenes. And there were commercials about it, and there are movies about it. So, it's just ridiculous how they made it out to be. And Obama did not help drug offenders in the U.S. He should have made that a goal, but he didn't. We're running out of time for now. We'll be back in just a few moments after some quick advertisements from our lovely businesses here in LJ, Georgia, in North Georgia here. So stay tuned into those commercials, and they're pretty entertaining. My name is Katy Sissine. Please stay tuned in for the show, for part 2 of the show. We'll talk about another wasted effort by climate change and get back into Mr. Trump and what Mr. George Soros, the $25 billion man, not million, $billion man, thinks about Mr. Trump. He's got a lot to say about Trump. We'll be back very shortly. Thank you. I'm your host, Katy Sissine.
It's a new year. New you at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper. Ring in the new year with huge deals on a brand new Ford. Right now, get exceptional offers like 0% financing plus a $1,500 factory rebate on a new 2017 Ford F-150 XLT. Or get 0% financing plus a $1,000 factory rebate on a new 2017 Ford Explorer. Make your resolution a reality during the New Year, New You sales event at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper, home of the Schottenkirk Customer Guarantee. Visit us online at SchottenkirkFordJasper.com.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East LJ. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
El Rey and Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey in Elgin.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Welcome back to the Katy Sissine Show. We just discussed how the state legalization of marijuana, or the state decriminalization of marijuana, medicinally or recreationally, has confounded so many people and has confused so many people, because people who are doing state legal actions have been prosecuted by the feds. And although Obama said he was going to make drug offenders a focal point of his terms in office, he did not decrease the rates of drug offenders in federal prison. It remains very high at 50% of the amount of incarcerations. Now that's ludicrous, that 50% of our criminals, quote unquote, have been incriminated for drug-related crime. Now, if the person is an addict, then maybe there should be a rehabilitation system in place, etc. But the state and the federal disagreement on marijuana needs to be resolved. In my opinion, either they need to agree on it, that it's legal, or they need to outlaw it entirely. We can't have this back and forth thing going on. This needs to be addressed. And maybe it's something that could potentially benefit our economy. Maybe it's something that potentially could damage it if we don't take certain procedures and certain precautions. So this is an important issue that we need not forget about, because 50% of drug-related crimes, of drug-related offenses, or of offenses, are drug-related offenses. Anyway, so in addition to the wasted effort of the ACA and the neglect of drug offenders in the USA, which I'm not condoning, simply stating that half of our federal prisoners are in prison for nonviolent crimes. In addition to the wasted effort of the ACA and the neglect of drug offenders by Obama, there was another wasted effort: climate change. In June 2013, President Obama outlined the climate action plan, the steps that his administration would take to cut carbon pollution, help prepare the U.S. for impacts of climate change, and continue to lead international efforts to address global climate change. That sounds great. Earth's average temperature is expected to rise. Let me just read you the facts. The Earth's temperature is expected to rise even if the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere decreases. But the rise would be less if greenhouse gas amounts remain the same or increase. So the average temperature is going to rise no matter what. And I'll tell you why. It's just the cycle. It's just the natural cycle of the Earth. The Earth's temperature naturally rises and naturally lowers with time. And yes, greenhouse gases exacerbate the issue, but not significantly. Anyway, so we see that Obama has not really accomplished much for us, but yet he's leaving office with a 60% approval rating and watching, almost as many people protest his successor, Mr. President Trump, than support him at the parade. And this is not presidential behavior. Obama should have tried to speak to those protesters and tell them that they need to listen to their new commander-in-chief, Trump. Maybe he could have addressed that in a better way. I don't know. Anyway, now that we have a new president in the office, let's get back to him. Let's get back to Mr. Trump. I want to move over here so we can see him better. Oh, sorry, over here so we can see Mr. Trump better. In this lovely photo provided by, I believe, CNN. That was a nicely designed photo. So everybody's got an opinion. And Mr. George Soros is no exception to that. Mr. George Soros is a Hungarian-American, chair of Soros Fund Management, chair of the Open Society and funder of MoveOn.org. The chair of Open Society and the funder of MoveOn.org. There's Mr. Soros right there. Lovely. And Soros is not happy about the Trump election. He invested $25 million or so in Hillary Clinton's campaign. He also supported Mr. Barack Obama. And he is very much so against Donald Trump as president. He predicted prior to the election that Trump will fail, and also he expressed that he hoped Trump will fail. And that was in an interview with Bloomberg Business at the World Economic Forum in Geneva, right before the inauguration, the day before, I believe, the inauguration. And these quotes provided by The Guardian are of Soros on Trump. Soros called Trump in the Bloomberg Business at the World Economic Forum. He called him a would-be dictator. He said he's going to fail. He said that Trump's an imposter and con man. He also said that Trump is gearing up for a trade war with a very far-reaching effect in Europe and other parts of the world. And again, expressed he personally has confidence that Trump is going to fail because his ideas that guide him are inherently self-contradictory. And how exactly are they self-contradictory? He's saying that they're self-contradictory because Trump expresses that he is going to defeat ISIS, but yet he's doing exactly what ISIS wants him to do. Now, how is that? Well, Soros said that Trump is doing the work of ISIS via fear-mongering. And at the Bloomberg Business Forum in Geneva, everyone gasped when he said this, when he said Trump is doing the work of ISIS. Because they all know how outlandish it sounded. It doesn't only sound outlandish, it is. He said that, Trump is doing exactly what terrorists want him to do because he's convincing the people, the Muslim people and the refugees that are coming into Europe, that there is no other way than ISIS. So by excluding them, by telling refugees that they can't come in and that they shouldn't go into Europe, that they should stay in Syria, by giving them this message and telling them that we want to help them within their own borders, George Soros thinks that's Trump's way of trying to incite more terrorism. This is Trump's way of converting innocent Muslims into Muslim threats. And he's saying that Trump is excluding them so that they will inevitably become a part of ISIS. And we have a video of Soros claiming that Trump is doing the work of ISIS from Bloomberg. Let's take a look at that. It's pretty interesting. Here we go.
It's true we mentioned a lot of crises, but we didn't talk about the US elections. How worried are you by the popularity of Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump is doing the work of ISIS. ISIS and before that Al-Qaeda discovered the Achilles heel of Western civilization, the fear of death. And when it interferes with reason, and people do things out of fear, which is actually harmful, and that's what by fear mongering, Donald Trump and the others, Cruz and so on, are doing the work of ISIS. And I actually listened to the debates, and it's a very simple message. I found it difficult to resist it. It's because it's so elemental. The only thing that stopped me is the knowledge that it must be wrong to do what your enemies want you to do. They want people to turn against Muslims, treat them as suspicion, and convince the Muslim community that there is no alternative except terrorism. So it turns the young Muslim population into a breeding ground for terrorists. And we must...
So as you can see, Soros is very serious about this. At the forum in Geneva, he believes that Trump is the one who's exacerbating the issues with terrorism here, not Obama, which we have heard from the conservative side. So he's also expressed that he believes Theresa May's efforts will be fruitless as well. Now, obviously, Soros is all about the unified global system of governance. We know that Brexit just happened recently and that Theresa May is the new PM of the UK, and that she is a conservative and she was for Brexit, unlike her predecessor Douglas Cameron, Prime Minister Douglas Cameron. And sorry about that. And so he doesn't believe in this separation from the union. The reason that he doesn't believe in Theresa May and he doesn't believe in Trump is that Theresa May and Donald Trump both believe in nationalism, and they believe the spirit and the pride in one's country is a good thing to promote a prosperous nation. Now, with the boom of technology and the rise of globalization that has occurred naturally through the boom of technology relatively recently in the 90s, we've had this kind of forced sense of unity in the world that has actually further separated us, in my opinion. The internet has actually exacerbated issues of discrimination and terrorism because it lets anyone speak anonymously. And when people speak anonymously, they say things that they would not say in real life, and they say some pretty awful things online, especially when they remain anonymous. Now, we don't have much time left in today's show, so we're going to wrap it up. But we will continue with some callers who will express their view on Mr. Soros and his ideas about a unified global system of governance. So, and I'll discuss the problems with this, and I'll give you a list of the problems with this unified global governance. It's not a utopian dream, and if it is a utopian dream, it's a utopian dream that will not come to fruition. I'm sorry to tell you that. Now, Stay tuned with the Katy Sissine Show. We'll be back with you very shortly. Thank you.